Welcome to Devotions Before Dawn. My name is Matt, and together we'll be sharing devotions every morning, Monday through Friday, one chapter a day until we've gotten through the entire Bible. That's 1,189 devotionals over the next 4.5 years. I look forward to this journey of growth with you, so make sure you're subscribed. Now let's get started. Genesis chapter 12. God is calling Abram to follow him, to leave his home and go to a land that he will show him, an adventure. The calling for our lives is very similar. Jesus says, "Follow me." Where are we going? What's the destination? That's what we all want to know. The destination isn't for us to know right now. We're to live life day by day, walking with Jesus, walking the road of life by faith. We also see in this text today that direction is more important than position. Abram's not perfect in this journey of faith. He makes a lot of mistakes, but he's heading the right direction. Some people seem high and mighty and pious and holy, but they're actually moving the wrong direction. Others seem down and out in life. They seem like maybe they haven't had it all together. Maybe they're even incarcerated or addicted to drugs, but they're turning to Jesus and they're heading in the right direction. God will definitely work with imperfection, but we have to be in motion. If we're not in motion, if we're not putting action to our faith, then maybe our faith is dead. So these are themes we're going to look at today. I'm excited. Genesis chapter 12, starting in verse 1. The Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people, your father's household, to the land that I will show you." That is a huge call. Abram lived in a place called Ur of the Chaldeans. It's about 1,200, 1,300 miles from the land of Canaan. An extremely long journey. However, Abram didn't know exactly where he was going. He was told to leave his father's household. He knew he was leaving his country, and the country he was in was large, very expansive. To go where? Where are you calling me to go, God? I will show you on the way. That's faith. And that's how we live our lives. Lord, I don't know where my life is going to end up. I don't know the final destination. My job is to walk with you. I remember when I was young, I got to go to Wrigley Field to see the Chicago Cubs play. Ryan Sandberg, Mark Grace, I was trying to remember their names, first baseman, second baseman. I love those guys. I lived in New York, but I was visiting my grandfather. We called him Pataw in Illinois, and he was a big Cubs fan. So as a boy of maybe 10 years old, maybe a little younger, we went to visit him, and it was quite a ways from the cornfields of Polo, Illinois to the big city of Chicago. But my dad, my grandfather, and myself, we got on a train and we took the train into the city. We got out of the train and the city was just huge. I hadn't seen skyscrapers like that, packed in people. It was wild. I was so impressed. How does my dad know where to go? I would have no idea how to get to the stadium. Even getting on the right train would have been a difficult task. But I walked with my dad. I held his hand, step by step, turn by turn, block by block, till I saw Wrigley Field. I could still see that ivy on those brick walls in the outfield. It was an amazing day. When you walk into a ballpark or stadium, there's just something special about it. But how did I get there? I walked with my dad. I had to walk with him. I didn't know how to read maps. I was a kid. We didn't even have GPS at the time. I had to walk with him. And that's how we're called to live our lives. Every step, every day, walking with God. Where are we going? I'll show you when it's time, the Lord would say. Verse 2, I will make you a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. All the people of the earth will be blessed through you. And we know this is one of the prophecies concerning the Messiah. Through Abram, Jesus would be born. Generations later, and he would bless the entire world. People from all nations, all races, all languages coming together at the cross, receiving salvation and grace and becoming a part of his kingdom. The world was incredibly blessed, and it started here with this prophecy given to Abram. Go, I will show you where we are going. I'm going to bless you, make you a great nation. We know that nation would grow to be the nation of Israel, and from that nation would be the Messiah, Jesus, who would die on the cross, raised from the dead, ascend into heaven and promise his second coming and give salvation to all who repent and believe, and we can be his sons and daughters. It doesn't matter your background, what continent you come from, what language you speak, what your culture is. We all rally together as one people following Jesus. I will bless you, and you will be a blessing. Verse 4. So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. Now, we have something important to discuss here. Abram received this call from God when he was living in the city called Ur of the Chaldeans. This is confirmed in Acts chapter 7, verses 2 through 4. And that's what we believe, that he received this call to leave his father's household and go to a land that was in Ur. And now we see the story's already fast forwarded because we catch part of it in chapter 11. We've read it previous. We may reference it in a minute. But here we see he's setting out from Haran. Haran is 600 miles to the northwest of Ur. So he's already left Ur. We see here he's 75 years old when he leaves Haran. He obeyed, but he kind of disobeyed. Leave your father's household, go to a land that I will show you. Well, his nephew Lot went with him. And we actually see through careful reading that Abram's father went with him as well. Abram's father died in Haran. We see that in Genesis chapter 11, verse 32. Terah lived 205 years and died in Haran. So when Abram left Ur of the Chaldeans, he was supposed to leave behind his country and his people. Yet his father went with him, his nephew went with him, quite an entourage went with him. Now maybe that is partial obedience, disobedience. He got in motion. He went on the move. His direction was more important than his position. Did he go perfectly? No, he did not. But did he go? Yes, he did. And it's important just to go. We want to do things perfectly. We want to obey completely. But even if we're imperfect, even if it's incomplete, get moving in the right direction. And we see that God can do great things on the way. So he traveled that first 600 miles with his father, with his nephew, and with an entourage. So yes, he was moving in the direction God had told him to move, but it wasn't a perfect movement. He was moving with people he was supposed to leave behind, but God is gracious in this. And so his father traveled with him for that first 600 miles, and they stayed in Haran for a while. Now, Haran is interesting because Haran is the same culture and same religion as Ur. It's the last city of the nation that still has that religion and that culture. So they stopped right there on the border of the nation because they wanted to be in the culture they were familiar with. Both of these cities, Ur and Haran, had heavy Babylonian and Mesopotamian cultures and worshipped the same gods. So it makes sense that the entourage went with Abram and they stayed in the Mesopotamian culture, the Babylonian culture and religion, and they got all the way to Haran. And they knew if they went any farther, they'd be leaving that land and that culture and that religion behind because they were not followers of the Lord. They were not followers of Yahweh, God, Jehovah. They had different gods. They worshiped primarily the god of the moon. And so they stopped in the final frontier, a good-sized city called Haran, a place they would feel comfortable and familiar with because it was a lot like the place they left. Now it's important that we as men and women go farther than our fathers. We dive into our faith deeper than our fathers. And I say fathers, and what I mean is our parents and our grandparents. That we go farther, we trust the Lord more, we run more passionately than they did. We don't need a people who are having offspring who are less passionate, less full of faith, less full of the fire than the generation before. And so Abram and his father and Lot all traveled 600 miles. They got to Haran. Abram would have to go farther. He would have to leave his father because his father didn't want to travel out of that town. We see that he left his father likely around 60 years before his father would pass away. Abram would leave the town of Haran when he was 75 years old. And if we do the math with the genealogies, and you know on this channel how we love a good genealogy, that his father was probably 145 years old when Abram left Haran, and his father would pass away at 205. A difficult decision. He was supposed to leave his father and his household and his country in Ur and travel walking with the Lord without that entourage. Nonetheless, they get to Haran, and now Abram is called, and he is leaving Haran, and he is doing it a lot closer to how God had called him to do it. Now, maybe it's not his fault. Maybe he said, I'm leaving, guys. I'm going. Where are you going? Well, this God has spoken to me. He has told me that he's going to bless me and make me a great nation, and through me, the world will be blessed, so I have to go. Well, where are you going? Where are you going, son? Maybe that's what Terah said. He said, I don't know, Dad. I got to go, though. And he said, well, we're coming with you. And maybe, Abram said, no, you can't come with me. And then maybe Terah said, well, you can't stop me, and I'm going to just walk the same highway as you, and it might get a little awkward when we see each other in the drive-thru at the McDonald's and when we're staying in the same hotels, but maybe it's not Abram's fault. Maybe they set out with him, and against his will, it doesn't say, but it certainly appears that he went with them, he allowed them to come with him, and it was an imperfect motion, but it was a motion nonetheless. It was motion taken out of faith, and he got on that road, and there in Haran, he would have to go farther than his father. And I want to go farther than my father, and that's a hard calling, because my father loves the Lord with all his heart. He's a great man of integrity, a man of faith, a man of faithfulness, a man of passion, seeking the Lord, but yet I know he would be proud if I took my faith farther than him. And I know it's not a competition, but it is important here that Abram would take his faith farther than his father. So his father stopped in Haran, and sometime, we don't know how long they were in Haran, but at some point, God moved on Abram's heart again to leave Haran, because that's not where he's supposed to be. It was on the way. It was in the right direction, but it was incomplete. And isn't that true of our lives? Oftentimes we will get on a journey of faith. We will not go as far as we should, and along the way we make a lot of mistakes. But you know what? God is so gracious, and God keeps directing him, and God keeps blessing him. And he'll keep directing you, and he'll keep blessing you. The key is we have to get up and get in motion. I don't know how that applies to you, but let the Holy Spirit speak to your heart. How does that apply to me? How do I get in motion? Even if it's not a perfect situation, how do I start moving towards that thing God is calling me to? He's calling you to something very specific, but in a general way, he's calling all of us to follow him, to walk with him. So start there. Verse 5. He took his wife Sarai and his nephew Lot, and all the possessions they had accumulated, and all the people they had acquired in Haran. So they had been there a while, and apparently God was blessing them there. I don't think they were supposed to stop there, and I don't think he was supposed to have his Lot and his father and their families with him. He was supposed to set out on his own. However, even though it was not perfect, God was gracious, and God blessed them. And they set out, it doesn't say all that, I'm just speaking to that. Here we go, middle of verse 5. And they set out for the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. I like how the Bible just says, and they arrived there. Yeah, it was like 500 more miles, like 600 miles. It took us months. The Bible covers it in 2 words, arrived there. This was an epic journey, 1,300 miles from Ur, traveling along the river, stopping in Haran, traveling to the south, getting to Canaan. This was a journey farther than they ever would have imagined. Had God told Abram in the first place, you're going to go this far, maybe Abram wouldn't have left. He would have said, no, that's way too far. But God said, just walk with me, one step at a time. And I think if God showed us where he was taking us, we'd say, oh, I don't know if we can get that far. I don't know if we can do that. That's dreaming way too big. I don't know if that's for me. But if we'll simply take one more step today, and one more step tomorrow, and one more step the next day, and keep walking with him, at some point, we'll look back on our lives and say, wow, look how far you've taken me, Lord. Look how much you've blessed me. Verse 6. Abram traveled through the land as far as the site of the great tree of Moreh at Shechem. Now, the great tree of Moreh, that is in their Mesopotamian mind, in that ancient culture, they saw that the word Moreh means oracle or to teach a word. So it seems likely that a lot of locals would go there to seek the gods or the direction of the gods. And it was there before Abram got there. But Abram got there, and remember, he has a pagan background. He wasn't born into this following of Jehovah. Into being a man who followed the Lord. He was born into a polytheistic religion. And so it might have been kind of in his nature to say, I don't know where to go next, let's go here. But God, again, in his great graciousness, speaks to him, leads him at that tree of Moreh in Shechem. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. Verse 7, the Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your offspring I will give this land. So he's there at this tree of Moreh because of a misconception or misbelief, because he didn't know everything. So he went there. He went there kind of in ignorance, it would appear, But yet God speaks to him. God meets him there. That's how gracious God is. God will meet you even in things you don't fully understand. Even when you're misguided, he'll speak to you. He'll appear to you. He'll lead you. He'll guide you. He'll give you his covenant promises. And he's just about you being on the journey. You saying, look, I'm imperfect. I've set out. I didn't do things the right way. I shouldn't have brought all these people. I shouldn't have stopped in Haran. I maybe shouldn't have come to this tree of Morah at Shechem, but I didn't know what else to do. And yet the Lord just keeps working in his life. And that's what he does for us. So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. What's Abram's response to worship? I'm going to worship this God who's led me these 1,300 miles and brought me into this land that he's going to give to my offspring, so I'm going to worship him there. Verse 8. From there he went on toward the hills east of Bethel, and he pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And he built an altar to the Lord there, and he called out to the name of the Lord. So we see Abram really growing in his relationship and his worship of the Lord, of the Lord God, Yahweh, Jehovah. He's there at the beginning. He's from Ur. They worship other gods. He's on his journey. He stops at a place called Haran where they still worship those Mesopotamian gods. But then as he comes into this new land called Canaan, God is revealing himself more and more to Abram, and Abram's worshiping him more and more. He's built 2 altars here in a short period of time to worship the Lord. So God is working in his life. God will work with your life, even in your imperfections, even in your missteps, and even in your misconceptions of what's true and not true. If we'll just keep walking with him, he'll iron out all of those wrinkles. Verse 9, then Abram set out and continued toward the Negev. Now the Negev is a region over there that is known for very fertile soil if there's rain, but if there's not, this place is utterly dry and empty. So famine was common. Verse 10, now there was a famine in the land. Who saw that coming? And Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while, because the famine was severe. So he goes down to Egypt. Verse 11, we see another mistake. As he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Then they will kill me, but they will let you live. So say you are my sister, and that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you. This is not a good move of integrity. This does not reflect faith. It does not show a great deal of protection for his wife, security for his wife. Verse 14, when Abram came to Egypt, the Egyptians saw that Sarai was a very beautiful woman, and when Pharaoh's officials saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh, and she was taken into his palace. He treated Abram well for her sake, and Abram acquired sheep, cattle, male and female donkeys, and male and female servants and camels. So Abram makes another mistake, and God just keeps providing for him and blessing him. Verse 17, but the Lord inflicted serious diseases on Pharaoh and on his household because of Abram's wife Sarai. So Pharaoh summoned Abram. What have you done to me? He said. Why did you tell me this was not your wife? Why did you say this is my sister? So that I took her to be my wife. Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go. Then Pharaoh gave orders about Abram to his men, and they sent him on his way with his wife and everything they had. And we see here Pharaoh had many wives, and it looks to be here that God used these diseases and infections, this discomfort in his household to prevent any long-term type assaults or violations of Sarai. So she was protected by God, which was amazing. When Abram failed her, God looked out for her. And you may have people in your life who fail you, but you can trust that God will look out for you when the people who are supposed to look out for you fail you. So that's a good lesson there. But this is not a good quality in Abram, and we see later his son would do the same thing, that he would make that same lie. And it's important that we do things the right way so that we set a good example for future generations, but that's a lesson for another day. What we see for today is that God had a calling for Abram's life. God has a calling for your life. That call starts with leaving behind the world you know and walking with him by faith. Being willing to walk by faith when you don't know the final destination. And you may say, well, who am I? I'm not perfect. I don't know enough. I don't know the Bible. I've made big mistakes. I don't know if I can do this. Well, welcome to the party, pal. Abram did the same thing. He didn't know God. He didn't know Jehovah. He knew other gods. He was from a different culture, a different religion, different place. And when he went, he didn't go perfectly. He did a lot of things wrong. He made a lot of mistakes. Yet God seemed to work in his life, ironing things out in his heart throughout this whole process, watching out for his loved ones as they traveled. And if you take that journey by faith, God is gracious. It's important that you get in motion. God will work with imperfection, but we have to be in motion. The direction you are headed is more important than the position you are in. So make sure you're moving in the right direction. And God's calling for all of us, I can't stress this enough, simply starts with follow me. And really, it kind of ends with follow me. Walk with me all the days of your life and on into eternity. Thank you for sharing this time in God's Word with me today. Before you go, please hit the thumbs up button and consider sharing this with a friend or posting it on your social media. And Christmas is coming up soon, so in the comments below, let me know what your favorite Christmas movie is, and we will do this all again tomorrow.